First Spin. Welcome to First Spin, a show where you learn about how to use the Parallax propeller without having any prior programming experience. And rather than do this on my own, I have enlisted the help of two experts.
You mean fish heads?
Fish heads. So, before this, Whisker totally deleted a segment where Roy was singing about fish heads.
I was singing the famous Barnes & Barnes 1979 song called Fish Heads.
Would you like to do a little snippet of it?
No.
I'm sure we could somehow relate it to Spin.
Just so everybody out there knows, I would have included it, but Roy, he was a little, he said I couldn't.
I did not.
Bring it back!
But Addie couldn't hold her lunch in through the intro, so it's kind of wasted.
So, if we get enough donations, donate at tymkrs.com is the PayPal. That might end up on the internets, whether
Perhaps.
Roy likes it or not.
That would be wonderful. So, yeah, I wanted to do better justice to the Expo announcement. So before we started, we were talking about excellent food excellent in Seattle, in Bellevue, because we are planning to go and see Roy and then travel on down the California coast to San Francisco, and then
But on the way we're going to go through the Avenue of the Giants and all that fun stuff.
Well, that too. I think.
I was going out there to hang out with Alan.
Yes. Well, yes, in Bellevue.
He's way cuter than Roy.
Awkward. So we are planning an epic trip of epic proportions through, and we were talking about food, so hence fish heads. But Expo, May 4th, it's a Saturday. Again, I think last week I did end on it. It was
yeah.
Let me see. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be in two locations. William Jessup University and Parallax headquarters.
Yeah. And that university is right around the corner from Parallax. You could walk there if you're not lazy.
Cool.
They're going to have shuttles going over there though, because it is kind of across a main road, like a 4-lane super road that goes to the freeway and all that. But
so last year there was kind of that inside thing, outside thing that were kind of somewhat separate, and a lot of I think the outside thing is going over to the university, and the inside stuff is just going to stay in Parallax, and we'll probably be hanging out at Parallax HQ mostly.
In their little cafeteria room. That's where we were last year.
We spent the whole expo in basically a glorified broom closet hanging out with you guys. So yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah. And I would love it. I know some folks recognized us by our voices, but I guess
that was really creepy, by the way.
Some came up and some didn't. But if you come up to us, just let us know you listen. We would give you hugs. And
I'm not giving you hugs.
Whisker can give you a kiss.
No. But I will give you Roy's phone number.
Awkward.
He's lonely.
That's horrible, Whisker.
Yeah.
He's not lonely. He's got us.
That's true.
Yeah. So, either way,
he's a terrible kisser, though. Mustache tickles.
How would you know, sir?
Awkward. We are a family-friendly show here. 1. 2, we are going to be there at the expo, and I want to see everybody. I want to meet everybody.
I'm not sure I'm going to be there anymore.
Are you kidding me? Roy.
With Whisker trying to kiss me? I think I'm going to avoid that.
I don't know. Maybe the first spin people would pay to see it. You never know.
Or pay not to see it. That might work out too.
Donations. Pay if you want to see it. Pay if you don't.
Pay or else you'll be forced to see it.
But seriously, come and chat with us, and we would love. We got to get some sort of recording thing, and then we can talk about. I don't know, first spinny things.
Maybe this year we can do a recording and have it actually be saved and aired somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, we did a recording there last year, but the monitor that I used was a USB monitor, and it totally messed up the audio bus. So yeah, it was completely trashed, and I'm not bringing all my equipment this year because that was a pain.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see if we can figure out some way to do it if it
Some
has
low
to be.
tech method.
Yeah.
I'll bring a cassette deck and we can just push record and sit around it.
Retro.
Excellent.
We just all have to talk really loud.
Vinyl first spin. So, anyway, yes. So, it's gonna be exciting, and we're totally gonna be there probably the Thursday, if not Friday before, and we'll be probably staying at Staybridge. So, if you like late night parcheesi and talks about propeller things,
yeah.
And
I'm gonna bring games like Cards Against Humanity, which is really hilarious.
And Jessica Ullman is going to totally be there this year.
She better be.
And
we're playing Magic
she
the
and
Gathering
I,
tournaments.
yes, and we are going to be playing Magic the Gathering.
She totally stood us up last year.
It's true. So we are going to totally play this year. So if you have Magic cards, totally bring them. We will have like the epic competition of epicness.
I hope we can get kicked out of the hotel lobby again. That was fun.
That was awkward.
It's like 3 a.m. We're like, you need to go to bed. Like, but we're not tired.
Next morning, so tired. Drink coffee, must have coffee. So
luckily they have free coffee.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So that is my expo announcement, and I will probably be doing the announcement again next week, and the week after, and the week after.
Up
so
until
register.
May 4th.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Register and let us know, because then we'll put you on like the list and the list of awesome
VIPs. Man.
VIPs. Yeah, we'll let you into Parallax.
And like I said last time, we'll probably have some sort of hacking afternoon or day on the Friday before, if there isn't one already. Ken was talking about something like that, helping support that. So
awesome.
But seriously, I mean, last year hanging out with the Toymaker crew, that
was a lot of fun.
Opens some doors. You get to go places and see things that,
It's true.
So find us.
And eat food. We had good food.
Now,
Diner.
Addie, you need to stop trying to dodge this bullet, because right before the new year came around, we did a little bit of talking, and you asked us what we'd like to see Addie in the next year. And my idea was to get you going on interpreters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you were like, oh, yeah, I can do that in a year. No, we're doing it now.
Whisker, I think, loves interpreters. I think if he could make interpreters for the rest of his life, he would.
No.
Yeah.
But I did make one.
Yes.
And it fits in like 80 lines of spin code.
Yes.
So basically, for a little background on this, it's called Byte.
Byte.
Byte, Bite.
Yep.
I call it that because it sort of nibbles along a byte at a time. It's jump. It's very simple. It only has a handful of operators in the language. And the reason why I think interpreters are a great thing for Addie to study is because it's not so much to be able to write an interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
The point is more to understand how an interpreter can take a little string of something and unwrap it into something bigger, right?
Sure.
So when you start getting into procedural type of things, knowing how to do this unlocks a lot of that.
What's procedural mean?
Generated on the fly.
Oh, I see.
So with just a short string of characters, your algorithm can chew through that and create something far more complicated.
Yes.
Which is a great trick from back in the day, when we only had a tiny amount of, like 32K of RAM to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And, you needed to figure out ways to create graphics without being able to store a bitmap, because the bitmap would take up 10 times more RAM than the entire computer had.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do it on the fly.
I see.
With tricky math.
Okay.
So anyway, that's why I think that interpreters are a really good direction to go for this year with you, because it'll allow you to do a bunch of stuff that up until this point you've been sort of dancing around. but you don't quite get it. And I think once you work on these, all that sort of thing will become obvious to you.
Yeah, you start using some programming concepts that you may not ever use unless you learn them through doing an interpreter or just going and finding a book that teaches you. But I think it's better to learn by doing. So
Sure.
All right. So this will be a lot more efficient for me to very quickly explain it than Addie because she's a little wordy. All right. So basically, we have two arrays. One called exe, one called mem or mem. So the first one is our execution memory, our executable memory. The second one is our like storage memory that the program works on. So the program is stored in exe and it works on memory in mem. Right? And there's just a handful of operators here. You've got a greater than sign, which increments the memory pointer. You've got the less than sign, which decrements the memory pointer. You've got the plus sign, which increments whatever point in memory the memory pointer is pointing at. You got the negative sign, which decrements whatever spot in memory the memory pointer is pointed at.
It increments and decrements the value as opposed to the location.
Why are you adding extra words?
Well, I'm clarifying. I'm asking, essentially, is that the case?
yeah,
So
the value is stored in that
so the
spot
plus
in memory.
sign is increments the value by 1.
Yes.
The decrement sign is decreases the value by 1 because that is different from the position.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
We already covered the positions.
Well, I'm just clarifying. Yeah.
Greater than and less than signs.
Right.
Okay, we've got an equal sign, which basically takes a number from Parallax serial terminal.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to put in an integer number.
How big can this integer number be?
Yeah, it's gonna clamp it between 0 and 255 no matter what you put in.
Okay.
So it's going to lock it down to a unsigned byte. There's a pound symbol, which
displays the value.
Yeah, prints out in decimal form the value that at the address that the memory pointer is currently pointing at. You've got an underscore, which allows you to input a character via the serial terminal. A question mark, which prints out a character that is, ASCII from whatever value is in the memory address that mem p is pointing at.
I have a question. If you put question mark, which is a character...
We can go through these in detail in a moment.
Oh.
We've got a square bracket open, which is basically the loop point is a conditional jump as well. So basically what it is if the memory address that memp is pointing at is equal to 0, then it's going to fast forward through the code, moving the execution pointer until it finds the square bracket close, and then it'll continue executing from there. So you can skip over code that is in between the two square brackets. And then, of course, the closed square bracket, if the execution pointer gets to one of these, it's going to jump back to the square bracket open that comes right before it. So that's your looping mechanism. Those two things together are a conditional loop. And then we have J, which changes the execution pointer to whatever number is stored in memory at memp. So this is your jump. And then we've got E, which is basically exits the program by setting the execution pointer to 256. There's only 256 slots in the execution stack there. So, yeah. And that's all of the operations for this little simple interpreter. I didn't design this to be used for anything. I designed it to be an instructional tool for Addie. That's why it's so simple and it has so few commands. It would be very challenging to write anything useful in this language, and I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're masochistic. Then by all means, go for it.
It's just a good example of doing interpreter stuff that could be easily used to teach.
Yep. So, Addie, you had a question about question? About question?
Okay, so question mark does prints out the character that is currently in the memory address that the memory pointer is pointing at.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if there's a decimal there?
There isn't.
What do you mean?
There's always a byte at each address.
I don't understand.
There's always a number between 0 and 255.
I know that,
at
but
each memory address.
oh, so I see. So you could either print the decimal, which is
to get the number.
like
if you're like doing math,
13
for example, and you write a little program that allows people to do addition,
yeah,
you'd want to print out the decimal. But if you're creating a program that, say, prints out "Hello World," you'd want to be printing out characters.
Well, I understand. Right. Okay, I see that. So then, can one of your characters be 13, like carriage return?
Yes.
And then it'll print a carriage return?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So you could actually use this language to do some fairly, advanced things with the serial terminal. Basically, if there was a lot more memory available to it, there's only 256 bytes in the execution part of memory, and there's only 256 in the memory. So that's the limiting thing with this language on what it can do.
Right.
In theory, if those limitations were not in place, if you had as much memory and as much execution space as you wanted, this thing could theoretically solve pretty much anything you wanted it to. You wouldn't want to, though, because it would be absolutely brutal to program.
It'd be painful.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a hello world fairly easily with the loop construct.
Yep.
And printing out characters, and then just preload the memory with the string hello world.
Well, because you would just start it and you would do...
You could increment, enough times to get up to so-and-so, but you'd very quickly run out of execution space. So what you have to do to fit it in would be to use looping constructs to do multiplication to increment up a memory address value up to the ASCII value of H.
What can't you do?
And then do some math on it to, decrement it down to the ASCII value of E.
Or the alternative is, because you have the set program and set memory functions, you can preload the memory with the string hello world.
Yeah. We didn't cover that yet. I did it in sort of a module form so that you could just include it in a demo program if you wanted to. And the two extra pubs that I included there allow you to set the program, basically give it 256 bytes, and it'll use that to write the memory, the executable memory, and you can also set the working memory as well. So you could, like Roy said, actually put Hello World into there and just have it increment through and printing it out, one character at a time, and that would be fine. But you're not really writing a program that spits out Hello World.
Okay, well, I have a question. So you have it the underscore in which you can put a character in, right? So if I did underscore right caret underscore right caret underscore right caret underscore right caret and put in hello world, and then at the end of the hello world I looped back to the beginning.
Are you talking about carets?
Or
there's no carets.
You mean that she meant the greater than to increment memory and then write in a string.
Right. Like, can I do H right caret or greater than E right? I'm just call it a right caret, okay? Right caret, because the up caret, down caret.
Say right or left is fine.
Right.
Because I intended them to be used as arrows.
So H right, E right, L right, to hello world. And at the very end,
well, it'd be underbar right. And then you would have to type in hello world, right?
Wait. So underbar and then hello world?
Underbar accepts a character from the terminal.
Right. So then it's just H.
Well, you would type the H on the terminal.
So underbar right.
Underbar right, underbar right, underbar right a whole bunch of times, and they could type in something, and that would stick it in the memory.
You could put that in a loop, too.
Yeah, you could also.
You'd increment your 0 spot in memory, and then, put your input inside of the
Oh, but then how do you
square
get to the
brackets.
beginning?
There's ways to do all this stuff. It's just, this is why it would be really painful to write anything in this, because it's so low level that you there's nothing there except one conditional jump. That's the only real logic you have for decision making. So that makes everything really painful. So it's not really.
No, I could. Okay. Well, I want people to see how to write a Hello World. Okay, so I'm trying to come up with it on the fly here.
Well, you've got a week to do a demo program that uses this thing.
Wait a minute. So we do a left bracket, right, and then do a right. Yeah, and then you do underscore to do Hello World, and then you do a close bracket, and then can't you run it? Wouldn't that program work?
No, because the memory address it's going to look at for looping is got to be set up also. Because it looks at the current memory address to see if it's 0 or not to continue looping.
Oh.
So you have to position the memory pointer to your loop count, as well as positioning it to add characters to your string.
Why do you guys do this to yourself?
We don't. That's why I keep saying don't make the mistake of thinking that you're supposed to learn how to use the language that this interprets. That's really not the point. The point here is to learn how to interpret, right?
You mean learn how to make an interpreter,
right,
that can do stuff for you.
Because that's the useful thing here. This language is intentionally not useful.
So is this like spaghetti code? But one character at a time?
The language here?
Yes.
I suppose it's one long noodle, yeah.
Because I'm trying to think, because, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, we were talking about our propo pet, my propo pet in earnest, right? And you guys said that if I learned how to make an interpreter, my propo pet would be much easier. And I get kind of, because I could theoretically make an interpreter, kind of, sort of, for my propo pet.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would behave according to its little internal program, and that program could be changed according to how old it is, how hungry it is, whatever.
Right. And the thing to think about is once you've gone through this interpreter and learned how it works and understand it, then we might, one option in the future is to add commands to it or change some of the commands to make it a better interpreter that you could write something in.
But
hold on. Oh. Let me finish. So one of the things, like learning how this one works and finding out, like, well, it'd be easier if we added this. That's like one of the things you need to learn is like, what is that thing that you want to add that makes it easier? And you will learn it. You'll figure it out. It's not that hard. And then once you start adding all of those, let's add this other command or change this old command to do something slightly different to make the interpreter better for what I want to do, or just better in general, is going to teach you a lot about programming. And that's what we need to cover over the next several shows.
Oh, God.
Yep. So your
it's
homework.
Not the end.
Your homework for this week. Now, I have not tested this code. Okay, I haven't run it. I haven't done anything with it. I just wrote it. Okay.
Am I supposed to treat it like an object?
So your homework for this week, and everyone out there can do this too if you want to. If we find any big bugs with it, Roy and I both went over the code. It looks like it should work. If we find any big bugs, we'll fix it, and we'll fix it on the link. So it might be fixed before you guys get to it. But take the object and write a demo program that uses it. Now, you don't need to go crazy and write a bunch of crazy Byte language stuff that does crazy. You can. You don't have to. The main thing is to write a program that uses this interpreter and figure out how to do interpreting. And then we're going to see
what interpreting?
Interpreting a program.
What it's doing.
It's taking a program and it's doing something that program tells it to. Okay?
Sure.
So you're going to write a little host demo that actually, loads up a program into this, runs it. Okay?
How do you do that though?
That's what you're going to figure out this week.
Do I do it with serial terminal?
You would use this object just like you would use any other object.
Oh.
This has the serial terminal built into it, so you don't have to worry about that.
But then I had to run it on a prop.
Basically, the only thing that your host program is going to do is going to load up this object, use set memory, etc., to put the program in.
And then it's
going to execute it. So you're basically making the loader, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then once you execute it, it's going to communicate with the Parallax serial terminal. So you'll type into the terminal whatever interactions with the program, or see the results if you just have it display a result and not have any input.
So in my new spin file, I will call this object whatever it is called.
Byte demo.
Byte, right?
Byte demo.
Byte demo. OBJ.
Addie's super awesome Byte demo.
Okay. So
then you're going to include the byte spin as your first object.
Okay.
Right?
And then I don't need to do any of the vars. I just do start, then set program 0, set memory 0.
Well, no, you wouldn't pass 0. You'd pass in the address of your program in a DAT section, probably.
Yeah, the way that I set this up, you're
section.
probably going to write your program in the DAT section of your demo, and you're going to pass the address to it through its label.
So I would do, so
it's going to be very similar to the strings in your Pet, where you have the label and then a string that's a picture of one of the pet animation frames. Except that instead of the pet animation frame, it'll be the whole program.
So I would do like text dot string strs parentheses.
No. Remember in Pet, in the DAT section, you have the different labels of.
No, I know that, but I mean in the main function.
So yeah, you would call set program and you would just pass in the label.
Okay.
At such and such.
At label.
So like at
and the
program,
label would be in the DAT section.
And down in the DAT section, you'd have,
Oh, and then I have it like run in the serial terminal. And then if I open the serial terminal and run the program, then I'll see what my program gives me.
Right.
I see. So I program in the DAT section.
You could, yes. There's a lot of ways you could approach this, but that is probably the fastest and easiest.
And I have to set the program address, but I don't have to set the memory address?
Well, it depends on your program.
If you want to preset some of the memory to make your program's job easier, then do that or not.
Oh, so I could have memory.
You can preset the RAM, basically.
Yes.
I see. So set memory at. Okay, and then all I could do is make the program read it. If I wanted to.
Yep.
Oh.
And it would be very easy to modify this interpreter to use less than 256 bytes if you wanted to. Right. It would be, that's one easy hack that people could do if they don't want to have to fill out.
Well, Whisker used 6. I think you used 6 when you first explained it to me.
Yeah.
So I might use 6.
Your program doesn't have to be.
Not gonna lie.
Your program doesn't. It's going to ignore any characters. If you look at the interpreter, it's going to ignore any characters that it doesn't know what to do with in the execution. So
and it'll be fairly easy for us with set program and set memory to make it so that it doesn't have to have the full 256 bytes to fill in. We could modify
now I have
the
a
program.
question.
So
if I set the memory,
that's the goal for next week, though. We need a demo program that makes it really easy to load programs in and out of it and execute them, all that sort of stuff. I put together the little interpreter engine right there, but it's up to you to actually make a demo program.
I'm gonna try and do Hello World.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah, Hello World is always a good starting point. But by demo program, I mean the spin demo program that loads and unloads.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Okay.
I mean, but I have to in order to do a Hello World.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
So if you can get that far next week, We'll talk about it.
I'm home. I'm scot-free. No more interpreters.
No.
We have a
Dang
long
it.
list of tasks associated with this that are all easily accomplishable within a week's time.
Prop 2, come fast.
So, but
we'll
Come
just move to the
quickly.
prop 2 with the interpreter.
Oh my gosh.
so next week I'd like to be able to hand out a little demo program to listeners that you made so that they can have an easier time actually doing stuff with this and following along and whatnot.
All right.
So make sure you do a good job.
I will try my
You will
best.
be judged harshly.
Yikes. All right.
I won't be harsh. Whisker will be the harsh.
Roy is,
Oh, you're usually
Roy
pretty
was
harsh,
born
Roy.
harsh. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. So get busy, Addie. We'll see all you guys next week. You can find this show on Tuesday evenings at firstspin.tv. We'll be there.
Register for the expo.
Yeah. And on the webpage there, if you want to automatically get the show on your phone for listening to it in your car, your iTunes, whatever, there's RSS feed. There's a play button on the page. You can just listen to it right there on the website. Yep, that's it. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.